Megan, it has been a couple months, more weeks, and
hmm
many days since we last recorded. And you want to know what? We still have no idea how to open these episodes.
New season, same interesting intro. Welcome back to Break Check. This is season two, first episode of this season. I'm so excited. Juan, how are you doing? It's early morning for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired. Uh, Mostly tired. That is how I'm doing, but I'm feeling good. Happy to be back. Ready to talk about racing with rich energy.
hmm
Obviously, for those of you listening to this tomorrow, the season does not start until March 5th. But Megan and I had just a couple different ideas on stuff we could talk about.
hmm
Before then, and this book is one of them. So yeah, I'm feeling good. I've been reading, obviously.
Yeah.
Reading is something that I really enjoy doing, but every time I do it, I never like go out of my way to do it. So
Mhm.
I'm happy I'm doing that. But yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good. I set a book goal on Goodreads for this year, and so
Mm.
far I have four down. So I am well
Whoa,
ahead of schedule. I've got time to kill.
you've already read 4 books?
Yes, but that's because January was pretty chill. My semester didn't start until mid January, so and
Okay,
it's cold in London.
that's fair.
It maybe that sounds a little bit more embarrassing to admit out loud, but yes.
No, I think the embarrassing thing is I think my book total goal for the year is 5.
Oh, cool, cool,
So
cool.
at this rate, I think I'll hit it.
Yeah. That's good. Early start. Yeah, no, I've been good. Just trucking through grad school. Halfway done with my semester already, which is weird.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like you just got there.
Genuinely. I'm still learning all the areas of London, so it's quite big, but
Yeah,
alas.
I thought you were about to say you're still learning the language. I was going to say, I have some news for you. um, yeah, so, we can, before we get into the book, we're
Mhm,
both roughly ish about halfway done with it. So we're probably going to do this in 2 parts. We can obviously go over any breaking news, any just news
mhm.
cycle items in the F1 media cycle. Do you want to kick us off with that?
Of course. So firstly, I want to mention the Race of Champions that happened maybe 2 weekends ago, a weekend ago. Now I can't remember the days anymore. It happened at the end of January.
Yeah.
But that happens every year. This place it happened in Sweden, and there's a ton of different drivers from all different motorsports with all different years of experience. We had Felipe Drugovich, who recently won an F2, and he's the reserve driver at Aston Martin. And he was there very competitive during the season, or during the races. He went up against Mick. He was runner up in the race of the nations on
Mhm.
Saturday. So very impressive for his first year in it. And
Yeah.
then Mick was actually a semifinal, or he was a finalist in the race of champions, and he lost in the finals, but still to get second place was really cool. Did you end up catching any of it?
Yeah, I was not watching live, but I was following all of Valtteri Bottas's
Mm-hmm.
races. Like just I was just keeping up with them. He which then led me to look up I believe his name is Lucas Blakely, and I
Mm-hmm.
know I got the last name right. I apologize if I got the first name wrong. He is an esports racer who was invited. There was an entire team of esports drivers invited to compete at the Race of Champions this year, and he actually eliminated Valtteri Bottas this year,
Mm-hmm.
and also eliminated Mika Hakkinen this year. And then I went and did some research on him because I was like, wow, that's very impressive. And
Mm-hmm.
apparently last year he eliminated Sebastian Vettel. So this guy can very clearly drive. I might see if I can keep up with him here or there.
Mm-hmm.
You see if he gets any other racing opportunities. But Seb and Mick did get their revenge on him this year. I think they were the ones who eliminated him. But definitely thought that was interesting. But yeah, I was keeping up with Botas, so I was pretty aware with what was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, it was great to see him in it. I was a bit surprised him and Mika Hakkinen were not doing as much as I thought they do, but I
Yeah.
think they were more just for fun. Whereas
Yeah.
Vettel and Meg obviously don't have as much racing to look forward to this year,
Right.
so they really went all out, which is cool to
Mhm.
see. I did an episode with the Undercut podcast with TMO last weekend, so definitely go check it out if you want to hear more about Race of Champions. We cover all of it in that episode, but yeah, I mean, in terms of other news, I know Drive to Survive season 5 is coming out February 24th. Juan, do you have a specific part of the season you're most looking forward to reliving?
Most looking forward to reliving, I'd have to think about, and I will while I give this next answer. I am looking forward to seeing, I'm not looking forward to it, but I am mentally prepared to see like kind of the Daniel farewell, and I think it will be kind of emotional.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. As far as reliving, I would love to see the behind the scenes and maybe the dramatization of the minor issue that Checo and Max had with each other this year. I'm interested to
Oh, I
see
forgot
what
about
that
that.
looked like behind closed doors.
I'm sure they got a little bit more clips. I'm so excited
Mhm.
that Verstappen is back in Drive to Survive this year. I think
Yeah.
now that that one season is behind him and he has that championship under the bag, he doesn't have
Hmm.
to, I think he's just kind of made his peace with it. So,
Yeah.
uh, very excited to see him back. I'm also excited to see Signs win. I kind of
Yeah.
forget that that
Yeah.
had happened last year.
Yeah.
Also, right before we started, I was thinking about it, and Nikita Mazepin was only kicked off the team like around this time last year. So I
Oh, that would probably
wonder
be the
if,
first episode.
yeah. So I wonder how much they got of all of that, and
Yeah.
having Magnuson come back on. It'll be kind of exciting to see that bit too.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Drive to Survive. I know some race fans are not the biggest fans of it. I am of the belief that I think it's a good show, and I appears to be a hot take. I do not think that they over dramatize everything. I
Mhm.
think that F1 drivers say some mean and bad things and get mad when it gets played back on camera.
Yes, like we know certain scenes like the last season's George Russell and Toto Wolff, like they're coming to agreement of him signing on the
Yeah.
team. Like we know it didn't happen then, and things like that are
Yes.
obviously just added for the added effect. But no one tells Lando to talk crap about Daniel
Yeah.
Ricciardo. So
Yeah.
and with the editing, the music in the background, it just
Mhm.
adds more effect. That's just movie editing. So
Yeah. Yeah, so at this point, Haas and Red Bull have done their launches. Megan, I know you have thoughts on both of them.
no. Yeah, the queen of just repeating, watch and repeat the Red Bull team, their car
Yeah,
looks near exact. I will say though, I love the yellow nose on that car. I think it just adds
yeah,
like a fun little detail. I was genuinely expecting Red Bull to have a blue car, like a Ford blue car, but I guess if their partnership isn't until like the 2026 engine
2026.
thing, so maybe that year it'll be a little bit more
Yeah,
forward focused, which that would be really cool to see. But how
yeah.
where are your thoughts on Red Bull at least?
Red Bull, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think we were texting about this the other day. It would be
Hmm.
nice to see maybe like a red base car with
Oh
like blue
yeah.
accents, but I think what they're going for is that in 30 years they want to be looked back at like the black Mercedes or the red Ferrari or stuff like that. They
Hmm.
want their livery to be like what people think about when they think about F1. I think I also said that the thing they're overlooking with that is none of us like them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what they're going for. I get what they're doing. It was nice to see Daniel out
Hmm.
there. Um, and actually, I don't know if you follow or have heard of it's Race Service. It's a American based kind of more modern. I hate using the word hip because it makes me feel old, but it's like a little more attuned to what young people are into,
Hmm.
based like rate motorsport content.
Okay.
And they actually do a lot of Charles's social media content, and I believe the owners are very good friends with Daniel Ricciardo, so they do a lot of stuff with him as well.
Okay.
And they just did a collaboration kind of media thing with Red
Hmm.
Bull where they got them some like really nice headshots with the new car with each other. They look really cool. I would definitely check them out. Follow
Okay.
Race Service on Instagram. I reason I'm bringing this up is I think a lot of F1 marketing and
Hmm.
PR is extremely corporate when we have like the coolest race cars in the world, and it does not have to be.
Hmm.
And I don't think that it would have the best like reception maybe overseas, but I think here, which it seems like Red
Right.
Bull maybe wants to tap into the American market a little bit.
Hmm.
I think that that's a good call.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've actually never heard of them, so I'll have to look into that. That's pretty
They
cool.
do like a lot with Charles. Like
Okay.
I'm like once a week they're posting about Charles. Like I think
Hmm.
the whole team just went like skiing and snowboarding with him. So I think
Oh, got it.
yeah. Yeah, so they're very very ingrained with him.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That's good to know. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see a bit more of that. Haas,
Yeah.
their quick and easy Twitter posts of their car launch.
Yeah.
I love that they're committed to doing the least amount possible
I
to
mean, you
their
think
car.
they got money to put on a
No,
presentation?
not even a
um,
PowerPoint. It's just
yeah, I gotta say though, I like their livery. I think it's really good.
I like the more black,
Yeah.
focus on it. I think it's cool. And then MoneyGram, their symbol kind of on that top view where you can kind of
Yeah.
see the thing. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't have high hopes for Haas. I still think they're trekking their way up.
I think they
Um,
might be the worst team on the grid.
I think they're gonna be tough. Yeah, not tough, but like they're gonna have a tough year.
Yeah.
And then even too with like Nico and Magnuson, we'll get into our predictions at the end of the month. So stay tuned for those. But yeah, it'll be an interesting duo, those two for sure.
Car looks nice though.
Car looks nice.
Before we move on, I do want to, I know you briefly touched on this already, Ford partnering with Red Bull. I want to talk about this a little bit because I'm kind of sad.
Yeah.
I don't think that this was on anyone's radar.
Mhm.
Ford obviously has a performance division in other motorsports, but I don't know if you remember, like maybe like 6 months ago, I
Mhm.
said my dream F1 team would be a Ford F1 team, and
Yes.
that just felt like a pipe dream. And they out of nowhere show up in F1 coming in
Mhm.
2026, and it is with my least favorite team. It really sucks. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. Like it sucks a lot. I am a Ford
Mhm.
fan. I drive a Mustang as my daily driver. My next car will probably be a Ford Bronco. My whole
Okay.
family has had Mustangs my whole life,
Oh wow.
and I have wanted nothing more than to like if there was a Ford F1 team, like just straight up Ford F1 team, that I would leave Mercedes for them.
I mean, you could kind of still like they
I
have a few years to sell
if
you on it.
the, I think as long as Christian Horner and Verstappen are kind of the head of the Ford
Mhm.
racing team, I don't think I don't think I'm in on it.
Their merch is probably gonna be cool though. I'm excited for like Ford on the shirts.
Yeah,
Nice American.
but yeah, I just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah.
It kind of seemed like a low key announcement.
Hmm.
Kind of seemed like the replacement for the Porsche deal that fell through.
Yeah.
Um, Curious to see what that partnership looks like in
Hmm.
3 years.
Yeah. And speaking of just teams in general, real quick, the FIA did announce that they're going to start looking at prospective teams interested in joining F1, which we already know that Andrade's been looking to enter, but this just confirms that the FIA is actually going to start considering new teams, which
Mhm.
is huge news. So we actually might see an Andrade team in the future, which I always thought was inevitable, but so many people shoot it down, which I don't know why. But I'm very excited to see that finally form. I mean, I feel like they've been speaking it into existence when they built this, or when they bought all this land in Indiana to start building, and
Yeah.
like essentially we're like putting everything there as if they were already going to be a team, even though no one had accepted them in it yet. So
Yeah, I hope we get some progress on this. It just kind of feels like every 3 weeks we get a news update on this, and it's the same thing. It's like
Yep.
Andretti wants to come into F1. No one wants them.
Yeah.
Maybe hopefully the potential partnership with Cadillac, which
Mhm.
also was
Also very cool.
very cool, very cool. Caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Hopefully, potential partnership with Cadillac kind of solidifies their entry into the sport.
Yeah. Hopefully by then Colton Herta has enough super license points because they keep shooting him down on that too.
Yeah, no, seriously.
But yeah, if you don't have any other news, we could probably get into the book.
So, like we said, Megan and I started reading Racing with Rich Energy. Subtitle: How a Rogue Sponsor Took Formula One for a Ride. This is by Elizabeth Blackstock and Alanis King. I'm not super familiar with Elizabeth, but if you're a racing fan, I highly recommend following Alanis on Twitter. She's very entertaining. Great,
Mhm.
great follow. But yeah, so we started reading this book, and at a high level, it is about the previous Haas racing team sponsor, Rich Energy, which is a UK based energy drink.
Mhm.
Depending who you ask, because it does not it seem like it was ever in stores, but it was a UK based energy drink that just seemed to not be what it actually said it was. So we'll touch on a couple points from the first half of the book. I believe the first couple chapters. There's one that just kind of laid the foundation. There was an interesting one about all the different like fraudulent
Weird.
sponsors that
Yeah, that was
F1 has had. And I was blown away that at any point in time, an F1 team was sponsored by a legitimate pyramid scheme.
yeah. You think the number one motorsport kind of group in the world, the one that everyone idolizes, would
Yeah,
have a good radar for BS, but
no.
uh no, for years
Um,
too.
Yeah, for years. And
Yeah.
Rich Energy did not last for years.
No.
So just real quick, some groundwork on the Rich Energy company. So it's run, owned by William Story, who talks like the worst person you have ever seen on LinkedIn. Like
Yeah.
that is how he speaks. He just kind of he avoids answering direct questions. He kind of talks like the like hustler mindset entrepreneur people on
Yeah.
social media. Like,
It's giving like Donald Trump bathroom tweets, some
yes, yes, yeah, like the constant like, oh, everyone doubts us and this and that. And I thought it was funny that he started off wanting Rich Energy to be like this premium, like top shelf energy drink, like it is like the energy drink of energy drinks. And
Mhm.
then when it was kind of being discovered that they weren't what they seemed, he was like, oh, well, we're just like some disruptors in the standard business model, like et cetera, et cetera. Just kind of constantly turning on his
Yeah.
points. Do you have any thoughts about him?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes in the beginning of the book was when he said, "I think a lot of people have put two and two together and got five because people were already onto him." And he talked like he was pretty much gaslighting like an entire crowd of people
Yes.
into thinking that they were wrong. Yeah, he had a history of failed businesses as well. I can list those real quick. I'm sure no one has heard of them unless you've obviously heard of this story. But there was, let's see, Wise Guy Boxing was my favorite. There's also Trifan Tech, Daniela Style, Trifan
Trifan
LED. Yeah.
LED, which seemed
Hmm.
to be like the parent company of a lot of these, maybe.
Hmm.
Something I was kind of caught off guard about was he seemed to be working with Gennady Golovkin, who
Hmm.
more famously goes by Triple G. He is like actually a very famous boxer. Like legit is just like us.
Hmm.
Like he is a famous, successful boxer. If anyone knows who Canelo Alvarez is, he's the most famous Mexican boxer. That him and Triple G have had like 3 fights, and it's like one of the biggest boxing trilogies of like the last like 50 years. So I was surprised to find out that Triple G, who is like a rich, successful, like Jordan brand sponsored boxer, was working with this guy. I don't know to what capacity, because
Mhm.
I don't, he every time he was reached out to, I don't think he was able to provide any
Yeah.
like story, but that definitely caught me off guard.
Yeah, there was quite a few. There was another guy too. I think another driver who,
Yeah.
tried it in another sport, kept his partnership with Rich Energy, but he wasn't even when he was racing. He never had the Rich Energy like logo
Because he
on
couldn't.
anything.
Yeah.
Couldn't, yeah. And I mean, I think
They
he was getting paid, so
Yeah, they blatantly stole their logo from a different
white.
company,
I think it was
white,
white
white,
bikes.
yeah, white bikes or something like that.
Yeah.
The like stag head logo. One of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite parts, or like one of the funniest things, I think, was that so William Story is from Richmond. Um,
Yes.
and he said that that's the basis for the name Rich Energy, which is like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sure, okay. But then it was found out that he didn't start the company, and it was formerly owned by a guy in Turkey who had
Mm-hmm.
already named it Rich Energy.
Yeah.
And kind of when confronted with this, William's story was just like, oh yeah, like, it was already called Rich Energy, but it just worked
So
with
fitting.
my, yeah, it worked with the Richmond backstory.
Mhm.
It's like I don't
That and the
I
stag thing, how he said that there were deer that would walk in the park in his hometown of Richmond, and that's where he got the inspiration from.
um yeah, and like at the end of the day, like it just wasn't like a drink you could buy at the
No.
store.
You had to order it in bulk, and the address to the company was like this small, like rent a desk spot in
Yeah.
the States. And he's like, oh, this is normal here. I feel like when people say that with no backing, it's usually not the case, but
Yeah, I don't understand, like, was Haas just that pressed for money that like anyone could have gotten them? Like
yeah.
this guy had $776 in his bank account. Like I have more money than him.
Yeah.
But I could have never convinced Haas racing team to like let my face be the sponsor of their
Yeah.
team. So like I don't even and I'm sure the book will touch the rest of the book will touch on like the negotiations,
Hmm.
but I just don't understand how it gets to that point without like vetting or background checking or
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's I feel like because and they do cover a little bit about this too in the beginning of the book where Haas their early success, they were so lucky that they were able to buy all these parts to have, the raw foundation of a decent car kind of at their hands and get things at a good discount, get all these, this testing and stuff done. But the 2019 season, I think was what their fourth year in.
Yeah.
And so by that point they needed new cars, they needed to be able to do a little bit more to keep updating, to keep up with those teams that have like a wild amount more money. And
Yeah.
so I feel like that like they saw the money, like they never actually saw the money, but they saw the idea and the potential of all of this money. And I think they were just going with their mind, they weren't really reading too much into it, which obviously was a huge mistake, but
I wonder who like initiates or like finalizes this stuff at Haas. And
mhm.
I'm sure we'll find out about it. But like, I wonder how much like Gunther like
Yeah.
had of a say in this.
I feel like it couldn't have been significant enough. Otherwise, I don't think he would still have his job, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it was a lot of Gene Haas, which is where he kind of like steps back, I think, after and like keeps like contemplating leaving. But I feel like it was a little bit more of him having to spearhead it and then
Yeah.
realizing how bad of an idea
I,
it
I
was.
do feel for Gunther because like,
Mhm.
how do you just look into the camera every day and just be like, yeah, this is fine.
It's great.
This is going well.
This is.
Yeah, and like another thing too is like I know just like when you think of like people who are good like businessmen and businesswomen and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and like the millionaires and billionaires of the world, it always kind of feels like they're just like committing fraud and like scamming
Yeah.
people. And I
Yeah.
know especially in the US a lot of like big money stuff occurs through credit and like
Hmm.
different methods that are not like traditional methods that you or I use in our like daily banking lives.
Yeah.
But F1 is one of the sports that just is very cash heavy. Like you if you are in it, you are rich because you have the money because
Yeah.
you have to
Spend it
pay it.
now. Yeah.
You have to pay it. Like like F1 does not operate on credit, which I think some of our sports here do.
Hmm.
Um and I just don't understand what William Story thought he was getting himself into. Like, did he just think he could just have a little bit of fun for like 3 months? But
Yeah.
like the instant the car needs something, you just have to provide cash for it.
Right.
So
Yeah. I know I think it was Gunther had said after that initial payment, they never received any more money. So I'm surprised that things didn't start taking a turn sooner than they did, even though things obviously fell off mid-season, like in July, I think it was.
yeah,
I'm guessing that those entire couple of months is when Williams or not Williams, Haas was probably like, okay, we need the money, like we need things that, we've got to have something rolling. And then I'm sure
mhm,
he kept making excuses for whatever reason he couldn't
yeah.
until he finally said he had to leave because it was such a bad team.
Um, the car was unreliable too.
Hmm.
So like it wasn't a cheap car,
No.
it was breaking down. I thought like it was kind of funny when the book kind of jumps around. Like you already know from the start that like
Hmm.
it's the teams separate, and I thought it was funny that the story was like, oh, I just I can't or like they can't handle me with like the PC
Oh, yeah.
like the PC attitude that
Hmm.
F1 has, which like F1 is famously not politically
No.
correct at all. In fact, F1 could learn to be a little more sensitive to like
Hmm.
political and like ethical and social issues.
I mean, you see, there's a rule change for this year where now they have to get approval before they can do any sort of demonstration. Like you can't even wear your
Yes.
BLM t-shirt or your gay pride t-shirt without getting approval, which I think is going further back than anything else. So yeah, I saw that too and laughed because I was like, I think we're moving backwards, quite honestly, from all of that.
I
But
agree. Side note, did you see that Max spoke out against that?
yes, and did you see Horner said that he's not going to hold back his drivers from speaking out because he doesn't
Yes.
want them to become robots?
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant. See, Red Bull, they can provide some good things.
I don't know what they have going on in the background right now, but I think they are trying to become like a likable team. And
They've
like
got to.
I think they're trying to push themselves in America a little bit. Just what I've
Mhm.
seen in the last like couple months.
Yeah,
I think they recognize that nobody likes them.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, they were, I mean, and a part of it too comes from Drive to Survive, where some people are like, oh, they just pictured them as these bad people, painted them in a weird way. But then again, it's like, well, no, they said these things. Like, I think, especially Horner, he knows what to say to trigger people, and
Yeah.
he did it, and he was successful in it. But now they're seeing the PR backfire that it's having. So,
Yep.
I will say I do like their idea too of donating the Mr. Doodle car to
Oh, yeah.
it's which I don't know, I think that was kind of cool, but they the funds are going to go to a charity for spinal I don't remember if it was like spinal research or just a charity that
Yeah.
focuses on people with spinal injuries. So I mean I think they're doing a lot of work, that's for sure. That PR
Yes.
team has a busy day.
Yeah,
um
they definitely do. What was I gonna say? I did not know that Rich Energy seemed to almost uh secure a deal with Williams,
right, yeah.
which that I believe would have ended the Williams racing team.
Could you imagine? I remember too in like 2019 and 2018 was already hard enough on Williams, and it was embarrassing enough for what's her name, the principal
Claire.
there. Yeah, Claire. I know it was hard enough for her as it was to step down and to make her peace with the team. So I think had they been involved with Rich Energy, it just would have been much more catastrophic.
Yeah. I am interested to kind of finish the book. Did you have any other points about it that you wanted to touch?
I don't think so. I think one thing I wanted to note that we can get back to maybe in one of these episodes is they talk about, just some of the other scandals that have happened in F1. There was the 2008 Crashgate, the Spygate scandal in 2007 with McLaren, where they were excluded from that championship. So they do go briefly into detail of some of those. So I think it would be really fun to do an episode in the future, maybe later in the season, just about some of these scandals and go more in depth into them. Just because, as someone who joined and started following F1 a little bit later, I think it's fun to always look back into history and just see how some things played out, or why certain teams are the way that they are, or why people like or dislike certain teams now.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I think if we split up Crashgate and Spygate and each one of us got to like kind of walk the other through for an
Yeah.
episode, I think that'd be
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Well, we can do that later in the season. That sounds cool.
Yeah, we'll finish up talking about this book, maybe go a little bit more into detail next time. But interesting kind of setup. I just don't get how it happened.
Yeah, the way this guy schmoozed himself into the F1
Yeah.
world is impressive. No, I think there was another quote too that said there's never been a sponsor that was this loud and poignant as story was. So
Yeah. So I think that wraps up our first episode of season 2. Bit of a shorter, slower episode. Obviously, the season not in full swing yet, not anything crazy happening. Cars, only 2 have been announced or presented.
yeah.
Megan and I, like she said, later this month are going to be going through our predictions. You were telling me you're having some trouble.
I am. I'm having a lot of trouble. I feel like there's a good 8 drivers that I'm just mixing around,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna have to commit. I think I'm very excited for both to share my wild predictions for the season,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you have a lot, and I'm sure we're going to disagree on half of them. But I'm very excited for that episode later. So that'll come late February, but very,
Yeah.
very excited for that.
My
Do you
top
have
10, what was that?
oh no, go on.
My top 10, I actually feel pretty solid about.
Oh, do you? Okay. That's
Yeah,
good.
I feel pretty confident, and I think some of my choices may surprise you.
Probably.
And I can already think of one that you're not going to be happy about.
Is it Alonso?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ignore that then.
Yeah, I'm interested to get back into the season. Somehow Megan and I planned trips the weekend of the first season, thinking that the season would not start until mid-March, which it should. They do like one race and then take a month off. So the first race recap will be like a hair late, just like a couple days, just while we get back from our respective vacations.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it. I'm looking forward to getting back into editing these episodes. I'm a little out of I'm out of practice. I gotta get back into the rhythm.
Yes, and we're getting more active on social. If you're not following our TikTok already, go check it out. I did a little thing that Kieran, who's on WTF1, he did this little bit where you do a spin the wheel, and you eliminate people one by one until you find out the one driver you will be supporting, ride or die, this year. Mine was the bull. Okay. Mine was I was so lucky. I got Charles Leclerc. It was beautiful.
Oh, how many tries did you do?
No, it was genuine. Like you record and you record your
Yeah, I've
reaction.
watched you do it. I just figured you had like 72 takes.
No, no, I really do. You know how hard it was not to, like, I think I lost Hamilton in the first run. And I was like, I'm gonna get, and I think Stroll was in it pretty long, so I was getting real nervous. But
So the reason I made that face earlier is I was imagining myself having to root for like Stroll all year.
Hey, you might be able to. I mean, it's your turn now. You've got to do it. So follow the F1.
I hope I get like Alpine or something. Someone I actually like.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Go check our socials. We'll be more active leading up to the season, and very excited for it to start.